Okay, well, this is awesome. I welcome everybody to another Creative Spotlight. I am Jesse. I'm a mentor and founder of Above the Sun. I help mentor coaches, and these spotlights are to spotlight authors and other creatives who are doing uh, powerful things with their writing, and we are hoping to inspire you as an upcoming author or whoever is listening. And I'm excited to introduce our guest today, which is her name is Kristen Wilks, and I am so excited. I deeply enjoy this person. She's a lot of fun, and she's a great story. How you doing, Kristen?
I'm doing great. Hello.
Yeah, hello. And we had some technical difficulties, so your name on there actually is your husband's name, right? Yeah. So,
Yes, I had to borrow his computer. Mine was angry.
yes. And you had some, and we'll get into some more difficulties, but you are at a remote location, so your generator and everything is going went out, and but you're a trooper and you are here with us, and so yes, well done.
Yes, our power goes on and off when we turn on the generator and uh, when it loads charges a bank of batteries, and that died right before the interview. So we had to run up and turn the generator on and wait for all the electronics to give a sigh of relief and begin working again.
And isn't that how it always is, right? It's like we try
Yes.
to, take not always, but oftentimes we try to take a step forward, kind of in just our careers and stuff, and then all of a sudden the generator goes out. But it looks beautiful behind you, the fire's going and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep. It's
good.
chilly this time of year, so we keep the fire going.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, okay. Let me just introduce you a little bit. And this is something that I know about you, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, Kristen is you're right, primarily in a I call it a quiet but chaotic. It's called the Mountain Meadow.
Yes.
All your beautiful things. And I've been there, which is fun. She has this
Yeah.
amazing retreat called the Mountain Muse that I was able to go up to. It's in the Cascade Mountains, and you live there with your husband, three sons. Is that right? Yeah,
Yes. Three sons.
and a dog.
Yeah. Nessie Grace Carew. She's a 122-pound Newfoundland.
Mm, that's awesome. Well, so and also you're a writer, and you
Mhm.
write mainly for kids, but you had uh, books. You had writing featured in what Clubhouse, Keys for Kids,
Yeah.
and Nature's Friend, and you got received
Right.
multiple awards for your books, right? Including the
Yes.
Angel Award and Vision Writing Contest. Is that correct?
Yeah. The Vision Writing Contest in 2023 and the Angel Book Award and the Genesis semifinalist, that kind of
Awesome.
thing.
You're an award-winning
Cascade
author.
Award.
What is it?
The Cascade Award.
Yes, yes, from OCW, and that's where we know each other. I was
Yeah.
gonna, we're gonna
Mhm.
ask how do we meet, but before I get there, it's what's beautiful, and I just love it because I this whole thing we're gonna talk about mission and everything, and I just love just seeing your mission. I think it's just a simple and powerful that you like to let help people laugh, kids laugh, right, and
Yes.
you also help them connect with truth and just realize that they're not alone, and you do deal with messy kind of topics too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that I like to have an incredible amount of chaos going on in the outer journey of the story and
Mhm.
humor and drama and insanity. And then the inner journey is one of faith. Um, and so my characters come up against utter craziness and learn how God acts in our world when everything is not going right.
Which is
Yeah.
which is great, and that's something I love as well. The messiest things of life sometimes,
Mm.
but yeah, we'll get into kind of what inspires you. But yeah, we kind of touched on we met. I'm trying to remember how we met. So it was at Cascade Christian Writers, right? For many years
Yes,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was several years ago, like 2017, 2018,
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. And it was a lot of fun. So definitely always
Yeah.
inspiring persons. But anyway, how was that for my introduction of you? Did anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's me. Oh, we have a cat now too. Whisper Persnickety is her name.
Nice.
We're not just a dog family.
Very
Um, yeah.
great. And so yeah, tell us. So what inspires you then? Just kind of the first question, is kind of, and
Yeah.
all of this, as far as you wrote many books, and just kind of why go on this journey of writing, as much as it is can be rewarding and challenging, but kind of what inspired you to kind of take the plunge and do all that.
So interestingly, I just found out that this is not everyone's childhood experience, but my family were all storytellers.
Hmm.
Um, and someone was like, "What? You had people telling you stories growing up just off the cuff?" I was like, "Of course. What else would you do?" But it like my great grandfather was actually paid to tell stories at a
Wow.
dude ranch. He was a U.S. Marshal in Oklahoma Territory back a long time ago, and my grandfather always told the story about when he played coyote and hunter with his brother, and that did not end well. Um,
Okay.
he was the coyote, and his brother used a real slingshot with a rock, and didn't use as much imagination as he should have with the whole chucking the rock at his brother. Grandpa chipped a tooth.
Okay.
And my grandma always told the story. Oh, so many stories from my grandmother, but especially the one where she rode a wild burro. Her brother, they were just running around in wild herds in Arizona, and her brother thought that it would be fun to ride one, and he convinced her to do it. And so she climbed a tree and went out on the branch and waited, and then just jumped onto
Mm.
the back of a wild burro, and it was very exciting. The burro was not pleased, but she lived, and and told us many stories from there. And my mom told stories, and my dad
Mhm.
especially. He would, if we were sick or couldn't get to sleep, he would tell us Green Meadow Rescue Society stories that
Wow.
he'd just make up while he was going. And they were so good. And I started telling my own stories in first grade.
Wow.
Um, and just that longing to tell a cohesive tale and entertain readers and have it be something that makes kids laugh, but also something that's meaningful, something deep,
Mhm.
and that transcends just that moment. Um, yeah.
That is awesome, and I will say that as an author myself, I am still envious as well, that you're able to tell a story. Even right there, you told the story really well. I will
Oh,
say for me, I love the truth and the epicness, and the but I'm not the greatest at actually communicating live stories. I'm becoming a dad very soon, and so I'm hoping to
yes.
learn learn how to tell stories better. But that's so cool you had that rich heritage behind you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned then, so like, as far as like your God's, like, would you think that then that's part of then God's mission for you to kind of blend that fun and truth to kids? You can impact that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I actually wrote it down. Let me look.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, perfect.
I am better writing than
See,
speaking, but
yeah, sometimes it's easier to be
yeah.
to get things down, like even what Habakkuk says, make it down, write
Um,
it down, make it plain. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess that didn't help what I wrote down, but I will just go off the
You can
cuff.
say it. Go ahead and just say what you write down. That's
No,
perfectly
I
fine.
wrote down okay that the ideas for my books are sparked from living and working off grid at a remote Bible camp.
Yeah.
From squirrel attacks and a giant puppy who's afraid of the dark to my husband falling through our ceiling. He was doing maintenance. Um, to standing alone in the darkness while the crickets chirp and the stars paint the heavens. I love that God provides the natural world around us. And
Mhm.
that ties into the camp work that we do so much, and that He provides really funny things that are right in the middle of all the bad and hard and tough things. And I think He wants us to notice those, and in my case, to write about those, because gifted
Mhm.
he's gifted us with humor right in the middle of all of the terrible things that can happen. And I don't think that's accidental. Our ability to pause a moment
Yeah.
and laugh, even when things are going so badly. And I think the natural world also has an element of that, in that you can be struggling, deeply struggling, and stop and see the stars, or stop and feel the wind on your face, or go on a hike or a
Mhm.
backpacking trip, and all of a sudden there's God
Mhm.
in the world around you. And I think creation and humor are things that help us to notice God's hand at work um, in a hard world.
Yeah.
And to be like, look, there is light here.
Mhm.
I can be light here. It's a way to gain strength on tough days. And there aren't enough funny books. There really, really aren't.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I was told too that yeah, it's not always that life is easy. We're called to overcome, and it's like don't ask God to make things easier. Ask us to be stronger, and that's just
Yeah.
kind of a personal motto for me of like, yeah, I mean, life can be challenging, but yet we're called to overcome and be stronger. And I'm just curious, like how it's noble to do that for kids and here and actually touch on like the deeper topics. Like how have you found that in writing for kids? And is it like and how deep do you go, I guess?
Well, it depends. I write for a variety of age groups.
Perfect.
I started out writing for teens, and so teens face all of the
Teams
things
face it,
adults
yeah.
face. But and so there wasn't much of a difference on
Yeah.
topic, although you need to keep your pacing going quick for teens, um, quicker than for adults. But with a middle grade age group, which is 9 to 12 year olds, that's what Fui Kerflui was written for. And that's our we have a variety of camps, and that's our junior camps, 9 to 12 year olds, and you have so much range in that age. But Fui Kerflui deals with a child who his world is in chaos, and he just wants a moment of peace. And
Mhm.
it has some tough topics. His little brother is in a wheelchair, and he feels responsible. He's not, and
Mhm.
everyone reading it can tell that he's not. But you know that your feelings don't always match what reality is, and he wants to keep his brother safe,
Mhm.
but his brother's also a daredevil, and he is jumping his wheelchair. He is racing his wheelchair. He's taking dares and doing mad things with the neighbor. And I wrote a short story where where this little brother character Connor, where he went off a high dive in a competition. And I studied it. It was not published, but I studied how you go off a high dive if you're wheelchair bound, and you
Oh.
absolutely can. I talked to camp counselors who helped kids swim who were wheelchair bound, and helped them ride horses,
Mm.
and helped them go off diving boards and sea kayak on Lake
Mhm.
Superior. They just strapped wheelchairs to kayaks, which is not safe, but it was fun. And so there's all these crazy adventures that little brothers having. And the poor older brother, Marcus, just he can't control anything, and it's terrifying.
Mm.
And those are real emotions that adults um, can sink under.
Yeah.
So I do go deep in that sense. However, there's a lot of the fun and games part of the story. There's a rampaging squirrel, and there's this giant puppy that's terrified of everything, including the squirrel and the wheelchair and lunch
Mhm.
meat that's not organic, and bell
Oh
peppers. I
no.
think she's afraid of everything, shiny floors. And so there's a lot of action, and there's a lot of craziness and humor, and then there's this deep hurt that this child is going through, trying to find peace in a very chaotic world. And that I didn't even think about it until I had already written the book
Mm.
and revised it like 13 times. But it comes right out of my life
Is an
because,
asset, yeah.
yeah, and you sometimes you don't know that you're writing your own story. Um, because camp is incredibly chaotic. There's water fights, there's like there's a game where you open Oreos and stick them to your face and move it down your face by
I've
wiggling your
done that
eyebrows
before, I
until you
think.
eat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's hair sculpting with mustard or mayonnaise and just the constant insanity. And then a child will pull you aside and want to talk about deep spiritual things, or someone is hurting and you
Okay.
sit and cry with them, or your heart breaks, and then 3 seconds later it's time to do whatchamabob, and you need to like dig through dog food with your face and find a Kit
Mm.
Kat bar. And so there's
Yeah.
the chaos, 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 and then the spiritual depth combined. And finding a moment to breathe can be difficult in camp ministry. And I
Yeah.
realized after I'd written that I was speaking to myself and seeking the Lord in what does He say about chaos and peace, perfect peace.
Mm.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, so many questions, and because I was gonna like trying to ask multiple questions at once, but yeah, it's like this. I love this idea that you're pulling from your own experience, and I love if you have any advice as far as for other authors and how to do that as well, to pull from
Mm,
their experience and then convert it. But then the side thing that is the added thing that I wanted to share too is that um you do it in such an organic way, because I know that the problem a lot of times with truth and Christian,
mm,
quote unquote Christian fiction, we can tend to shove a lot of just direct truth and agenda down at people, both kids and adults, and that where we kind of feel like we're leading. I don't know if you agree or not, but it feels like we're sometimes some books are leading with an agenda. But when you're
mhm,
saying that, you're like, okay, well, here's some truth, here's some connections, and we do this fun games. To me, that feels a lot more kind of organic, where it's authentic. And so, anyway, whatever you want to say on that, or anything, or advice, or on how to kind of navigate that, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so much of what we do working at a Bible camp.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it helps with writing too,
Hmm.
because people can, especially Christians who don't understand kids,
Hmm.
or Christians who don't understand camp ministry, can walk in and see that that everyone is racing to chew up a pickle and spit it into a bottle,
Hmm.
and then run around the lodge 3 times, and then have a water fight. And they're like, well, what does this have to do about Jesus? And we're
Hmm.
like, oh, but it does.
It does. Yes.
Because um, kids need to know they can trust you before they are willing to hear the deep truths that we have to share. And that's important because there are people that aren't trustworthy and kids should be cautious.
Hmm.
And that's okay because we will prove ourselves
Hmm.
as loving caregivers and counselors and adventurers at camp. And so you have this week and you begin to have shared experiences with campers where you went on the night hike together and looked up at the stars and you sing the crazy songs at chapel and you do the crazy games with the Oreo on your head and they watch you during the everyday moments. Do you snarl at them? Are you impatient? Are you only kind when you're talking about God? Do you make sure they're not bullied? When you're trying to gather everyone together because they're all crazy and jumping around, do you do it with grace and dignity? Is God being shown in your voice and your actions all day long? And then you have these crazy shared experiences like jumping in the frog pond and having a mud fight or we had one time where the Gaga Ball pit didn't have a floor on it yet. We had a thunderstorm, and everyone jumped into the Gaga Ball pit and played Gaga Ball, and they were just covered in mud. And actually, the camp pump that pumps water out of the well broke
Hmm.
right then and so everyone's like, no, what? But they have this shared experience that you can be like, remember that time with Gaga Ball in the thunderstorm?
Hmm.
And after sharing all of these things together, and they see that Jesus changes how you speak to them, how you wrangle the chaos, how you make sure people aren't being bullied or pushed around or forgotten, the quiet child that can be forgotten. When they see um, that, then they're willing to listen to you
Hmm.
about God. And writing is the same way because it's
Ask,
the
yeah.
story comes first.
Hmm.
You have a fun and exciting beginning, and you have shared experiences along the way with your reader. Um, First, you prove yourself as a excellent storyteller
Hmm.
first, that you know what the beginning should be like. You're having this problem arise and these characters that you love, and you know um, just a story arc that is compelling and fascinating, and you know that they want to see it wrapped up with the character having grown and had some victory and being changed a little bit inside. But that change inside is a spiritual one for me. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and when the part of the story that you're in should remind the reader of the spiritual lesson naturally. Like chaos comes up and they have the squirrel that creates chaos. And um Marcus knows a Bible verse about peace. You will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is steadfast on you.
Hmm.
And so he glances at a sign, reads the Bible verse, which seems very forward.
Hmm.
However, he has chaos all around him. Of course, he's thinking about why do we have this crazy Bible verse above our door about peace when my brother just jumped his wheelchair and then he made tea out of rhododendron leaves, which are poisonous. And they're having to pump his stomach, and the squirrel is shredding our shoelaces. And why on earth would we have such a crazy Bible verse above the door when everything is chaos? And having it tied into the story, I think, is key.
Hmm.
Reminding the character
Yeah, because you've
of
earned you've earned it then at that point as
yeah,
far as yeah you've
yeah,
earned the experience and that's interesting. I in my heart I also write middle grade. I'm going to eventually.
mm-hmm.
I've co-authored a lot of more adult young adult, not young adult but new adult, so like kind of like
Yeah,
25, and the same
college.
thing. It's like it's the Lord told us the same thing. It's like this is like lead with the story and have it the characters
Mm-hmm.
feel authentic, and
Yes.
we provide truth, but it's like the characters not don't always pick up the truth and use it perfectly,
Hmm.
and it's almost like we trust the Holy Spirit to help like we give the tools,
Hmm.
in books, but we trust the Holy Spirit to then help the reader, um, to use those tools if they want, right? I mean, is that kind of
Yeah.
the kids like, oh, I read this cool book, about this, and that person did this, so maybe in their own life they'd be like, okay, maybe I'll let the Holy Spirit. It's like, oh, remember that, that book, Fooey, like what did Marcus do? And like you can remind them to do those things, but that's kind of the Holy Spirit's job. Is that kind of what you're
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah, and it may sound funny, but I have absolutely prayed for
Mm,
help with this.
yeah.
And I think I've seen the Lord show up because He does care about us. And you think, well, maybe God only cares if I have cancer. But no, I've been praying because I couldn't find a way to weave the faith element into the story in a way that wasn't preachy and didactic. And I said, Lord, what should I do? And took a walk and prayed about it. And then the idea came. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, well, the Lord made my brain, and the
He
Lord
does it.
allowed me to learn skills, and he gives you help when you don't know what to do in your career as well as in your personal life. But yes, also trusting that you can't control all of the actions of your reader, and you shouldn't.
Hmm.
They need their own faith. They need their own walk with God. And you write a beautiful story, a funny story, a dramatic story, and you hand it to them, knowing that you grew in your faith as you wrote it, and trusting that the Lord will use it appropriately. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, so much to unpack there, but yeah, like I guess then with on the converse side then, like what would you hope as a writer just for you that your readers would take away from your books? And I guess also just kind of what is success in as a whole, look other
Mm-hmm.
than maybe obviously selling 1 million copies and becoming rich and everything. What would success for you look like, and what do you hope your readers would take away from your writing?
Oh my goodness. There's so many things, but for what the readers take away, I want them to know that life doesn't have to be perfect for
Mhm.
them to have perfect peace uh, with God.
Mm,
That everything doesn't have to line up and look exactly right for God to be in their world. That He steps into our world. He came down to see us. Christ Jesus came into our broken spaces and our broken world to rescue us.
mm.
That that He is there in the dark times and the bright times and the funny times, waiting to connect with them.
So
Um,
good.
that's what I would like them to take away.
Love it.
Um, and what was the second
Oh, I
question?
think you kind of answered it in together, but
Did I?
success, like what is success?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, a child laughing with my book because so camp ministry can be very hard.
Mhm.
There's a lot of heartbreak and pain, even though there's so much laughter and fun games. Kids are hurting,
Yeah.
and you hear a lot of hard stories. And I have been ministered by funny books so often. Just a moment of peace, like Marcus was looking for in a book, laughing. And I would love to see a child laughing holding my book. That's what delights me the most. Is like people will send a picture of their kiddo reading about Fooey, and like, oh my
Love that.
goodness. Yeah, but also just the knowledge that God is there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Great. That's beautiful. So yeah, like um any advice that you would give to a writer, maybe in the similar place as you, to and we did a lot, as far as honoring the process, pulling from
Mhm.
experiences, like anything else you
Yeah.
kind of want to share. I mean, that it sounds like your mission is to kind of like, yeah, help the kids know that God is near. And for those who have a similar mission, maybe what is some advice you may have for them to encourage them on this journey?
Well, it sounds funny, but well, let's see, what is it, 2025? So I've been writing with the goal of publishing professionally for 24 years
Mhm.
and really learning my craft. And it was only about 10 years ago that I actually started writing in a camp setting,
Hmm.
um, because what you know deeply seems like every day. And it
Mhm.
never occurred to me that, that like the power going off, and having to plow our own roads and
Mhm.
having elk bugling in the backyard and fighting it just felt so normal. And I never even occurred to me to write about it.
Uh,
Um, and then someone is like, I was telling a story, like you said before, like storytelling,
yeah.
about, I don't know, riding my horse into a bunch of elk or something, which is dumb. Don't do that. um, and they're like, Kristen, why aren't you writing stories that are at a camp? I was like,
Yeah.
well, that sounds so boring. And they're like, it's not. It's what you know deeply and what you're passionate about. And I am passionate about the forest and wild places and what God does when you step out out of town and into His creation. And it never occurred to me to write in that kind of setting. And so I changed things up and I started figuring out ways to do that. And I would challenge people to really look at the things they are deeply passionate about and wonder if perhaps some stories can connect there in unique ways. That's
That's so good. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's being the authentic, right? And it's like you
yes,
said, sometimes we don't value what's just right around us. But just reminds me, I don't know, maybe it's a stretch, but reminds me of the Great Commission that Jesus says, start in
mm,
Jerusalem, Judea, like start where you are, right? Start
yes,
right where
yeah,
and it's your authority too. It's your learned experience and
mm,
people, I mean, I mentor a lot of authors and say, well, I don't have any credentials, I don't have any authority. Well, but
mm,
your learned experience and what you've been
yeah,
through and everything, and that's like it's you value learning to value that and writing from that place is both authentic as well as it's unique to you and it is your experience, like what God created you to do. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Great advice. Okay, well, before we go, I just want to kind of hear about like just what you're doing next and anything you want to kind of share as far as like how people can find you. Obviously, we're gonna and maybe even your book. Your where to find your books, and they're on Amazon, right, and everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
just more about that.
yeah. Okay, so right now I'm working on a series of books told from a Newfoundland puppy's perspective. And her name is Fooey, Fooey Kerflooey. And actually, if you just Google Fooey Kerflooey, she is the only Fooey Kerflooey that I
Maybe
have been
spell
able to
that.
find.
Would you spell that for
Fooey,
people?
Fooey, Phooey, and then new word Kerflooey, Kerslooey.
Okay, of
So
course.
Fooey,
How would I have not
Fooey
known that?
Kerflooey.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and what was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm writing her. I'm doing final edits on her third adventure, which is of course when the generator breaks, just like it did right in.
Just now, it's learned
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it actually breaks instead of just turning off.
Okay.
And Fooey has been hearing a Bible story about Exodus and the darkness, the plague of darkness. And when the generator breaks, she's pretty sure that the angel of death is coming for Fooey and her boys. The plagues are starting anew. There was a frog, there was a cricket. Now it's dark. She has to go and fix the generator herself with helpful nose pokes, which You may guess that helpful nose pokes do not save the day.
Hmm.
But
Spoiler alert.
yes, so that is what I'm working on. And about the themes and that, um, what I would love kids to take away from is Fooey Kerflooey versus the Deep, Deep Dark.
Hmm.
It comes out in September. You do not face dark times alone. Jesus came so that death would pass over us. When the world looks dark and scary and you are afraid, remember that you are deeply loved and that God Himself came to rescue you. Um, so, yes, poor Fui has many adventures, but she is not in the dark alone.
So
Um, yeah, and my website is just KristenJoyWilks.com, and I spell Kristen Kristen. So Kristen Joy Wilks. If you Google that, it shows up. But
awesome.
yeah.
Well, it's so good hanging out with you, Kristen. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know people are going to be inspired. You have a very fun life and you are living it, which is so cool about sharing in the middle of the mess. And I just love that. And that's same with me, it's the authenticity. And
Mm-hmm.
I just really value that. Like, we and it's really good as creatives too. It's like, we're not supposed to be perfect. Um, we just do things the best we can, and right from where we are. And sometimes even for those who are just have not published a book yet, I almost even encourage like don't I mean, yeah, make sure it's excellent and all that. Get your editor, get your coach and all that stuff, but it's not going to be perfect, even your first book. I mean, in some ways, I mean, just it's sometimes better done is better than perfect, and just and get the thing out there. Trust the Lord will use it. When we published our first book, it's like, the Lord just kind of reminded us like the kernel that dies. It's like it sprouts up.
Mm.
People and God still can use imperfect beings and
Yeah.
perfect people, and so just really encouraged by your story about just the shared connections, God in the moments, and you're not alone, and that you can just kind of pull from those normal mundane things, and that applies to all writers, I think, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. It's just very relatable and accessible. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share before we sign off?
No, I think I said so many
Yeah.
things, but
It was so
thank you so
good.
much, Jesse.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's such an honor, and yeah, we just bless the people watching this, and
Yeah.
go get the books. There's a lot of good ones, and looking forward to the next one coming out. So, and
Take
all
time
right,
to laugh. There we
time to
go. Take
laugh.
time
There
to
you go.
laugh.
Say it
Yeah.
again.
Take time to laugh
Time to laugh.
today.
The good final thing,
Yes.
and for mine is go change the world. So take time to laugh and go change the world. All right, take care, guys.